on the SWCTC website. The order for speaking tonight will begin in alphabetical order and will be rotated thereafter. Candidates' remarks are being timed to assure equality of time, and the seating for the candidates follows suggested guidelines. Questions have been submitted via the Local Leafs website, and questions may either be called or text in during the live forum at 612-756-8164. I will tell you that we prefer them to be text if you can, but that is only during the live forum. So if you're watching us live right now, text us a question. We will begin with opening statements, and we will start with our mayor candidate, Myron Bailey.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this event this evening. Again, my name is Myron Bailey, and I'm currently the mayor of Cottage Grove, and I'm running unopposed for the second time in a row. I did want to say to the public, I do appreciate the trust and support that this community has given me, which obviously shows with the fact that I didn't have anybody running against me. I've been the mayor for the last 12 years. I was on the council for 4 years prior to that, and I was on the planning commission for 8 years prior to that. I'm married to my wife, Cindy, for 36 years. I have 3 boys, 2 of which live in Cottage Grove, and I have 3 grandchildren. And I should also mention that my mom lives here in Cottage Grove, too. Outside of being mayor, I am a district manager for Dollar Tree, and then I also keep myself busy. I'm president of Metro Cities. I'm also the president of the Youth Service Bureau. I'm president of the Cottage Grove Economic Development Authority, League of Minnesota Cities Board. I'm also on the Transportation Advisory Board for the Metropolitan Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Now with their opening statements are the candidates for the City Council, and we will start with Nick Cawthorn.
So first, I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum and for all the tremendous work that the organization has done. And also want to say thank you to South Washington Telecommunications for broadcasting this. Just a quick shout out to my family at home, my kids, Tyler, Teddy, and Aubrey, and my beautiful fiance, Brittany. I love you all. For all those that don't know me, I'm Nick Cawthorn. I'm running for Cottage Grove City Council. Some may say living in Cottage Grove for 2 years is not long enough to be involved in the community, let alone the council. I respectfully disagree. Currently, there are 300 new homes being built in our amazing city, and most of them are young families just moving to our amazing area. This doesn't include all the already tremendous expansion we have seen in homes and new homes in years past. Like many of them, value and sense of community brought us and my family to Cottage Grove, and I want to help preserve that so we can continue to grow and attract families and businesses. While balancing the fact that the cost of living is rapidly growing, it's pricing our seniors out of our community. I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Next with her opening statement is Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters and for all the efforts that you make throughout the year and putting on this event tonight so that voters can be informed. I also want to say thank you to the voters for tuning in tonight and watching. By participating, you're saying that this is important. I'm humbled to be able to be here tonight to share my thoughts and ideas and to answer your questions that you have. I approached the council seat as a privilege and a service to the city of Cottage Grove, and I have been on the council for 4 years. I listen first, and I value community input and use that to make decisions along with clear facts and insights from our experts at the city. So I'm Lorraine Mills, and I'm running for re-election for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with his opening statement is Justin Olson.
Thank you to the League for putting on this tremendous event tonight. I've had the opportunity to do this a few times, and you folks do a wonderful job of keeping voters informed throughout the year and encouraging our democratic republic and the people who live here to get out and vote. So thank you. My name is Justin Olson. I am a over 38-year resident of the city of Cottage Grove, and I'm in my 9th year serving on the city council. I am seeking re-election this year for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I have been fully engaged in giving back to this community since I was a young person who grew up here in Cottage Grove. I graduated from Park High School in 1988. I've served for many years as a volunteer coach for CJA baseball and softball. I'm a member of our Cottage Grove Lions, former vice president of the St. Paul Park Newport Lions, former vice president of the Economic Development Authority for Cottage Grove, former president of Strawberry Fest, and have served in a number of additional roles with civic organizations. I love this community. I give to this community, and I ask for your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you. We will now go to our questions, and the first question goes to Lorraine first. Cottage Grove's drinking water has been impacted by chemical contamination. What have our city officials done to deal with this issue, and what steps do you think the city needs to take to protect the health of our residents?
Thank you for that question, whoever submitted that. We, as a city, acted very quickly to respond to the situation just about 3.5 years ago. And we quickly put together what later became award-winning temporary water filtration systems as we waited to see what was going to be occurring. As we move forward, we need to put together a filtration system that is going to be long-term. And just today, we learned that we will be having that provided through a settlement through 3M. And so I'm committed to working towards seeing that come to fruition, that is going to be something that will be long-term for many generations to come, so that Cottage Grove can have safe drinking water and continue. We have safe drinking water right now, but that'll be something we can continue for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Myron Bailey.
All right, thank you. Great question, and ironically, as Councilmember Mills has mentioned, today we were able to make an official announcement through the state of Minnesota Department of Health and Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Natural Resources that the city of Cottage Grove is going to get some of the settlement money, somewhere between $75 and $90 million, to put permanent water treatment facilities here in Cottage Grove. Our water is currently safe to drink. To be honest with you, I know Councilmember Mills mentioned something earlier about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I'll be honest with you, I've been on the council, and I was way back in 2006 when this first started, and we started focusing our attention on this. I testified up at the Capitol on behalf of the city and our needs, and we're finally there. Up to this point, though, we did put in a temporary treatment facility. We have actually 3 of them right now. So the water is safe to drink on a temporary basis, but our goal is a permanent solution, which is finally here.
Thank you. The question now goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you, and it's a great question, very timely, as you've already heard, in that there was an announcement made today about the city of Cottage Grove receiving the funding that they have sought for so long to get a permanent treatment facility in the city for our residents. When I was first elected to the council in 2008, Mayor Bailey and I spent many, many hours in meetings with 3M representatives about the water quality issue, how best to ensure that our water quality was safe then and safe moving forward. He mentioned testifying at the Capitol. We've both done that. We've worked very closely with our legislative agenda at the Capitol, in addition to working with the DNR, the MPCA, and the Minnesota Department of Health. You've already heard that we took mitigating action to ensure that water quality was top of mind and safe for all residents, as it is today. But we're very gratified to understand that the hard work that we've put in over the last over 10 years to get this figured out will now result in a permanent solution for the city of Cottage Grove residents today and now into the future.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nick Kaufman.
So I'm really happy to hear that there is action that's being taken on the city's part, and it sounds like it took funding from 3M to get said action. One of the things that I hear from my neighbors during this campaign is that even though we're being told that the water is safe, and there's probably data that supports that, we hear still plenty of complaints about the smell of the water, the taste of the water, and the fact that residents don't even feel safe giving it to their dogs. With that being said, I think what we can do to improve our water is also analyzing the contracts that we have with our civil engineers and making sure that there's accountability all the way down to even the water storage tanks, and make sure that they are fulfilling their obligations for the 7 to 15 years of maintenance that need to be done on said water tanks. And I also believe that it is the city's obligation to protect their citizens, and I'm happy to hear that there are necessary steps being taken to protect the water.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes first to Nick. For small businesses whose livelihood has been destroyed this year and probably next year, what would you do to help small businesses in our community?
So this is a really great question, and I appreciate the individual who asked this online. As we all know, in the COVID economy, the times are really difficult. And I know that there are certain grants and there is certain funding out there that we need to partner with our small businesses to make sure that they're applying for, first and foremost, and then also doing everything on the city level to make sure that they're being supported as well. That being said, I do believe that we need to prioritize some business growth here in the city when it comes to development south or west of Highway 61, as a lot of those businesses have been even more greatly affected by the COVID situation, as they are very small and even mostly family-owned businesses. And we need to make sure that we're taking strong partnerships with those businesses to make sure that they're getting the aid and that a partnership with the city that they well deserve.
Thank you. The question goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you very much. We've taken a number of mitigating steps to help our small businesses survive the challenging economy that's been presented with the global pandemic. Just some examples for you. First of all, we had our Economic Development Authority staff reach out to every business in the city of Cottage Grove personally, by phone, to find out what we could do to help, how they were handling things with the pandemic, and ask some questions about what they needed from us. Obviously, we have a limited scope with respect to how we can help, but one of the things that we did is we worked through our Economic Development Authority, and again, that's not taxpayer money. That's money that is donated by other businesses to help support our business economy, to do a small business grant program. We were the trendsetter in the Twin Cities and in Washington County for that program. And now you've seen that Washington County has copied us, followed our lead, and so have many other communities. We've been able to distribute a number of small business grants to those locally owned businesses who needed help, and it's helped them to survive.
Thank you. The question goes to Myron Bailey.
Thank you. Yeah, just piggybacking a little bit on the grant program, we ended up giving, small businesses do not have to pay back the money up to $10,000 per small business. And in the cases where we weren't getting enough, in our opinion, believe it or not, enough businesses to actually request this money, and again, it was a grant, it wasn't having to be paid back, which I think people were surprised by. The fact of the matter is we even changed some of the scope of what we were looking at to give guidance to them so that other businesses, even smaller, could get this money provided to them. On top of that, we also waived fees. So if there was fees that somebody got a permit to sell alcohol, or somebody got a massage license, any of those fees during that time that they were closed, we actually refunded that money. So the city of Cottage Grove looked all over the place trying to figure out how can we best support our local business community, specifically I'll call it the mom and pop shops all around town. And as of right now, we seem to be doing pretty good.
Thank you. The question goes to Lorraine.
Thank you.
Mills.
Thank you very much. So besides the education of letting the businesses know, I know we've all been participating in getting the word out along with our city staff, and they have a great relationship with our businesses here. We work closely with the Chamber of Commerce here and those business connections. We do a lot of things with that. We have done the grants. They don't have to pay it back. We sought out people and said, apply for the grants. So we were trying to encourage people to apply for the grants. We will continue to help with the businesses as needed, and we have waived fees. We've done everything we can to keep business here. I thank many within our staff for coming up with ideas and how they work hard, along with our guidance, to work with the businesses here in Cottage Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Justin.
Thank you very much. You know, over the course of the last 10 years, the city of Cottage Grove has enjoyed record growth in our business community and in our residential community. We're very proud of that. We definitely do not want to go backwards. And so we have worked extremely hard to make sure that not only have and help those businesses be successful. In addition to all of the other things we've mentioned, we've also implemented a Shop Cottage Grove or Shop Local program through our Chamber of Commerce that has been in place now for many years, that has also been very helpful to those local businesses with regard to their income.
Thank you. Myron?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in real quick too, because as we all sit here and talk, there's other things that we've been doing. The city of Cottage Grove also has been doing what we call a BR&E, which is Business Retention and Expansion Program. And for the last few years, we do go out and we do survey our businesses to find out exactly what are they struggling with, what do we need to help them with, and then we take that information back to the council and staff and try to see what we can do to fix some of those things, one of them being transportation, which maybe we'll be talking about a little bit later.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Lorraine first. What is the greatest challenge facing our city?
So as we look forward, our city is now approaching an age where we're going to begin seeing some major things that we're going to have to be working on, some infrastructure things that we'll have to start planning for. And also as we grow, we have infrastructure that we have to grow. So it's extremely important that we really watch how our budget is moving forward, how we can maintain that tax rate and bring that down while still expanding and taking care of these big items that are coming about. So we're going to see a lot of challenges with that. We also are going to see challenges within our infrastructure with our traffic and working on redeveloping some areas with the traffic and the traffic lights. So those are some major things that we're going to be looking at and having to plan for and figuring out how we're going to pay for it without raising the taxes and making it difficult for our residents.
Thank you. The question now goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you very much. If you would have asked me this question yesterday, I would have told you water quality. But you asked me today, and we have a water quality settlement in place, so I'm very proud of that. Realistically, the biggest challenge we face is ensuring that as we grow, and we have grown by leaps and bounds over the last 10 years in commercial and residential ways, that we do so smartly, that we ensure that the infrastructure keeps up. And by infrastructure, that means the pipes and the wires under the ground, but it also means the personnel here at City Hall and down at Public Works who make sure that the city remains safe and that everything works properly and that we don't have any major issues because we've grown too fast. We work very hard to be planful. We have a 5-year and a 10-year CIP or capital improvement plan. We do a strategic planning session at the start of each year to ensure that the priorities that we have in place are the right priorities for our residents, and we will continue to do that moving forward.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nick Kaufman.
Yeah, I think the greatest challenge for the city, I definitely agree with what I'm hearing up here. The way that I would summarize it is the cost of living. You know, as we see continued growth in the city and we see more younger families coming into the area, the tax base is growing, then which requires the capital to expand utilities here in the city. And I want to make sure that as we move forward and as a future councilman that we're being very frugal with those dollars and making sure that we're taking that cost into account before any of that cost is passed on to the community. I think that there has to be a level of accountability when it comes to spending as well and making sure that we're driving value in those contracts that we have for building our infrastructure and making sure that we're getting the most service for the least amount of dollars possible.
Thank you. The question now goes to Myron Bailey.
Thank you. So it is, I think, the biggest challenge, and I would agree with Councilmember Olson, it was maybe the water situation, but we've got that resolved going forward. Now we still have to build the structures and such, but we are working through that. I also agree it's smart growth. I think cities, we've witnessed cities out there that grow too fast. And when they grow too fast, there becomes traffic issues, water issues, storm sewer, you name it. And so what we've got to do is make sure that our structures are sufficient. And as Councilmember Mills had mentioned, we do have some aging infrastructure that's happening because we are an older city. As we're still growing into bigger, newer areas, we still have to maintain those older areas. And so between the two of those, I also just want to mention real quick, The developments that are happening within Cottage Grove, we've always had a policy, and even before I became mayor, that developments pay for themselves. In other words, developments of the road and infrastructure in those projects are actually paid for by the developer. However, we have to take care of the roads outside of that and after that.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Yes, Justin Olson.
Thank you very much. With respect to the cost of growth, it's important for the voters to know that over the last 10 years, the average property in Cottage Grove has gone up 3.3% annually in value, where our taxes have gone up 2.5% in value. So if you extrapolate that out over a 10-year time frame, you can see that your property has grown 8% more than your taxes. And that's largely due to the width or the increase in tax base. Our tax rate has gone down by close to 5% over the last 10 years. So the average taxpayer is paying far less today than they did 10 years ago.
Thank you. Anyone else? Additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Justin first. Do you support defunding our law enforcement?
Absolutely not. Unequivocally, no. One of the things that we take great pride in here in the city of Cottage Grove is our terrific core governmental services. Public safety is at the heart of that. Remember, I was a 4-year commissioner on the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Commissioner as a volunteer before I became a city council member. That 4 years on that commission taught me an awful lot about the way the city works, and it taught me an awful lot about our public safety professionals. I am the son of a volunteer firefighter, so I've been around public safety professionals my whole life. And I will tell you, one of the greatest points of pride that this council, and I speak for the council, one of the greatest points of pride that we have is that our community is safe. We have 70% of our households in the city of Cottage Grove with families who have kids under the age of 18, and we want this community to be safe. It is a great community to live, work, and play in, largely because of our public safety presence.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nick Culphin.
I am not a supporter of defunding our police department. I believe that they do amazing work, and it is the priority of the council to make sure that our citizens' safety is first and foremost. I don't believe that defunding them will accomplish necessarily the motivation behind it, and I feel that I second Justin's sentiment that it needs to be a priority. We need to continue to fund, and we need to continue to look at ways of continuing to keep our community safe.
Thank you. The question now goes to Myron Bailey.
Yes, I would just, I'll echo, no, I'm not in favor of defunding the police. What I will tell you, though, is the things that we're doing to support our police with better training. Right next to this facility here, we have the new Hero Center. And one of the things that we put in this Hero Center, not just for our officers in the city of Woodbury, who we jointly put this project together with the state of Minnesota, but we're also inviting other municipalities to come in with their police departments. And we are doing de-escalation training, opportunities including psychological learning on how to identify when you're approaching somebody or a car or whatever. How are you going to be able to handle that situation? Instead of immediately, unfortunately, like we've seen in some of these cases out there where the gun comes out first. Our officers are very well trained. We'll continue to train them in the Hero Center, along with the fact that I do believe there's a really good connection between our public safety department here in Cottage Grove and its public. And I believe that shows through in all of the things that we've seen up to this point in Cottage Grove.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. I do not support defunding our department, our public safety department. And what I'd like to say about that is our department is a public safety department. Their philosophy is about public safety, and it is not about policing. And I've spent a great deal of time talking with our incredible public safety director, Pete Kerner, and support fully what they have going on in the department. They have the policies and procedures in place that bring about safety for our community. So safety is extremely important. They're working with the county on pilot programs, and they're working with other entities when it comes to domestic issues and different things like that. So we are on top of things. We are moving ahead in a very positive direction, and we have some of the finest here. And so I very much support our director and where he's taking our public safety program here in Cottage Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Justin Olson.
Thank you. You know, we in the city of Cottage Grove enjoy the benefit of a really great public safety department, and that legacy has lived on for many years. Former Chief Craig Woolery ensured that our officers were the very first officers in the Metro Twin Cities to get comprehensive training on how to deal with people who are on the autism spectrum. Largely because he knows my son has autism, and we talked at length about whether or not this department gets trained on that, and he made sure that happened. The de-escalation training that the mayor talked about is also something that we do that many other departments don't do, and we're very proud of them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Lorraine.
Yes, I'd like to also add that our department is also participating with community conversations about how to feel safe in Cottage Grove and the things to make sure that no matter the color of your skin, that you feel safe in Cottage Grove. And so our director, Pete Kerner, is a part of that, and other members of that team have also participated along with the city. And so we strongly support working together to make this a place to not only be safe, because we are, I think, 13th on the list for the safest city of our size, but to also make sure that it is a place for no matter your skin color, that you feel safe.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Myron Bailey first. Black mothers report that their children have been stopped for just riding their bikes through town. Women fear going for a run in our community, and teachers are seeing racial bullying. What will you do to improve relations for the people of color in Cottage Grove?
Thank you for that question. You know, some of it actually goes back to what we were just talking about with the initial comment of defunding our police. Our police department, along with myself, and I believe the entire council, did attend a community listening session. And literally, I did not want to go up and speak. I wanted to just hear what the different people that are experiencing these issues within our community are having, because I don't see it. And it pains me, to be honest with you, and concerns me that people don't feel safe the way I feel safe by going down the street, taking a run, going to school, whatever. And so what we're doing is we are looking at additional speakers and things to come in and facilitate some additional community discussions. Matter of fact, just literally today, I did receive information from the League of Minnesota Cities on some of the recommended speakers to help some of these community conversations so that we can better understand what's going on in our community to solve it.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. So before the horrible and tragic death of George Floyd, the council in January had already taken steps to even identify a few things within our own city. And we put forth a goal of really making sure that we are hiring racially diverse people working in our city. So that was a goal that was taken back in January. And, you know, after the shock of what happened, I connected with many community members, and this listening session was put forth. I did speak at that, but it was all about listening and hearing what people had to say, because we want to understand so that we can better respond and be a part of that. As I said earlier, the public safety director and part of the team has been participating in community conversations, and through that there are ideas coming forth, some of which is with COVID. It's been difficult to try to plan some large events. So your city's committed to working on this, and I'm also committed to working on this.
Thank you. Then question now goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you so much. This has been a topic of conversation and a focus for a number of years in the city of Cottage Grove, largely driven by the city council when we do those strategic planning sessions. So some things to note. 6 or 7 years ago, we had the Wilder Foundation come in, and they did a presentation for our law enforcement department called Facing Race. And it dealt exclusively with how best to ensure that people of color felt safe and represented in the community. I was present at that. We did it at River Oaks Golf Course. We had a Human Rights and Human Services Commission that we formed about 10 years ago, where we also had many people from diverse backgrounds who came together to talk about that very topic. This is something that is extremely important to all of us in the city of Cottage Grove. We take great pride in our community. We take great pride in being an inclusive community, and we will not stop working on this problem until those things that you mentioned are no longer part of the conversation.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nick Kauthen.
I agree with Lorraine that we need to work on, as a city, better adding more diversity to our police force. I believe that the racial inequality and the racial issues that we're seeing today need to be addressed by us listening first and taking action second. And I think what we need to do is first is somehow set up a committee or develop a community forum where we're bringing the police and the minority community to a meeting and talking about some of the issues that they're seeing and the ways that they're being treated and the ways that they're being communicated with on the streets. I think that this is definitely something that has to be a primary focus in today's world as our community is growing and becoming more diverse. And we need to make sure that we're actually bringing everyone together from all different perspectives to the table and having that conversation and listening first and leading from learning and taking action.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Justin Olson.
Thank you. With respect to the idea of bringing people together, that work has already started. As Councilmember Mills mentioned, over the course of the last number of months, our team here at City Hall, in addition to our team on the City Council, have participated in a number of those sorts of learning opportunities and learning sessions. And as the mayor mentioned, when we spent some time down at Hamlet Park during a listening session, this was not about us. We did not speak. We simply listened and we learned. And we've taken those sorts of actions. I also want to extend my gratitude to Public Safety Director Kerner for taking an active role in those conversations on those Wednesday night meetings.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Additional comments? Then we're going to move on to the next question, and it goes to Nick Kauthen first. Do you know if COVID-19 has increased evictions and homelessness in Cottage Grove to a large degree? If so, is there anything that can be done at our local level?
So my understanding from COVID that the eviction process would subside. However, I do know that there are loopholes that allow the tenants to actually perform those evictions. To answer the second part of that question, that's very complicated, and I would like to actually hear from the city on what they are doing to combat this. Because from my experience and what I'm hearing from the community is we unfortunately are seeing the hardworking folks that are out of work that are facing this problem today.
Thank you. Question now goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you. There is a moratorium on evictions. It's part of the governor's emergency powers. In fact, I had a great conversation earlier today with my friend Craig Patterson, who happens to be a realtor and developer, lives in town. I've known Craig since I was a young man, and we talked about this very topic. It was also a topic of conversation in a chat that I had with the St. Paul Association of Realtors last week. The fact of the matter is, at this point, the eviction process has been stopped, but that's a temporary stop. The larger issue that we have to deal with here is how do we keep people in their home once that stop is removed? And that is a much more complicated question. There's a number of different avenues we need to explore, first of which is continuing to work with our friends at Washington County Social Services on ensuring that people have access to the information they need on where to access either credit or improve their opportunity to get into subsidized housing so that they can continue to keep a roof over their head and over the head of their families.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. So currently, I know Washington County does have a program to help folks that need some additional funds. And so we do usually work very closely with Washington County. And so if there are things that we can do as a city, we certainly will step in. But I know on that level, typically it's the county and the state that work harder on the housing piece of things. But as far as I know, that there is not people being kicked out of their homes right now due to the governor's order. So I don't think currently it is an issue, but I know we'll act quickly once if there is something that we need to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to Myron Bailey.
Yeah, I'll ditto to what was said here. I guess the one thing I would say is if there is an issue out there and there is a citizen or somebody that's having a concern about being evicted, please reach out to me or reach out to the city. We are here to support you. We do not want anybody to get thrown out of their home or their apartment or anything. Specifically, in this case, if it's dealing with COVID. The city of Cottage Grove has even taken it a step further, other than moratorium, obviously, that's done through the governor. But we were even waiving late fees and such for water bills, sewer bills, things like that too, because we understand we're in unprecedented times with this COVID situation. So all the things that we've been doing or we have the option to do, we want to do it, and I absolutely do not want anybody to lose out on living in this great community.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Lorraine first. What is the percentage of minorities that live in Cottage Grove? Do you know?
Thank you. So I think the last time the census was done, I think it was around 10% of minorities. And I can tell you 4 years ago when I was doing door knocking, I'm not doing door knocking this year, I would say that that has definitely increased, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to be sitting at least 20%, if not even slightly higher than that once the new census comes out. Our community has become more diverse, and especially in a lot of our newer developments, we have seen more diversity happening in there. So I look forward to connecting with our more diverse community as we move forward.
Thank you. Question goes to Myron Bailey.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think it is around 10% when you put all the different groups together. And I am also going to be interested to seeing the new census results when they come out. The one thing that I always kind of judge, in my personal opinion, is I look at what our local businesses are doing, or who's operating those local businesses. So when you walk into some of our business establishments around town, you are seeing minority business owners that are actually starting to open up shop here in Cottage Grove. And I think that's amazing because they're doing two things. They're bringing their value and expertise into our community to share with us, whatever that may be. It could be anything from daycare facilities to nutrition to restaurants. And so I love the fact that we're seeing that. And what I like to do, and I know we do it through our BR&E program too, is I like to find out, are they living here in Cottage Grove? And what is it about our community that they like, and what are the opportunities that we need to do and look at within our community? So.
Thank you. Question goes to Nick Kaufman.
As a grandson of a Mexican immigrant, I'm glad to hear that there are projections that we're going to see some more diversity in our community. I think with that added diversity will come some added perspective. I think with adding some more diversity to the communication, it will actually help with some of the perception as it comes to policing, like our previous question had. I look forward to seeing some more diversity in this community. Being where I live in Cottage Grove, I can tell you there is not a lot of diversity. I live in a neighborhood that is predominantly older community members. And the couple years that I've been in on that side of town, especially, I have not seen those changes. So I will be excited to see some of the projected increases that we're hearing today, as I feel like that will only strengthen our community and will only bring growth and true prosperity to our community as well.
Thank you. Question goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you. In 2010, the census for the city of Cottage Grove reflected approximately 12% people of either Hmong descent, African American descent, or Hispanic descent. The projection for 2020 is to be well over 20% in the city of Cottage Grove. I find that to be a real credit to all of the folks who work on the city council and in our city hall, because what that means is people are identifying our community as a great place for them to either move to or raise a family in, hopefully both. So one of the things that we've had to do is we've had to change the way that we go to business. In our strategic planning session earlier this year, we talked at length about diversity in hiring and how best to recruit diverse candidates, because you want your business to look like your customers. And so we've changed a number of the ways that we actually recruit, specifically for public safety, but in general for the entire city, to make sure that we add more people of color to our staff to better represent our community.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Myron Bailey first. How can micro businesses qualify for help along with small businesses?
Well, when you're talking micro, I'm assuming we're talking home-based business. It would be my guess. And from a city's perspective, we did not offer the grant program to those micro businesses. You had to have a certain amount of people working in that business, and that had to be locally owned. However, the county has changed just recently, and we've been getting that information out to our smaller businesses, the micro businesses within the community, because the county does have a larger pool of cash that they can use, and they're actually allowing now, they've expanded their opportunities for those micro businesses. So I know myself included on my Facebook page, but the city also did put some information out to let these businesses know how to go about seeing if you would qualify for those funds to help them along.
Thank you. The question goes to Nick Kaufman.
So yes, I agree with the mayor. There definitely is some gaps in the city level when it comes to supporting micro business. However, yes, there is support at the county level, and I think as a city, what we can do is gain closer partnerships with those micro businesses, identifying who those micro businesses are, reaching out to them, being proactive, seeing what their needs are, and seeing what sort of resources we can provide to help support those businesses as well.
Thank you. Question goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you. As was mentioned by the mayor, micro businesses were left behind a bit when the pandemic first struck. The good news is the CARES Act provided money for support to those micro businesses. It just took a little time through the legislative process for that money to trickle down to the actual agencies who can help. So the Minnesota Department of Economic Development, or DEED, has partnered very closely with Metro Twin City county boards to make sure that those micro businesses are now being informed that there is support and help available. The qualifications for that support and for that help are a little bit stringent. But what we do here at the city is we've worked very closely with a number of our business partners and even gone so far as to help them fill out the application forms to ensure that they're filled out correctly, submitted in a timely fashion, and that they go to the right place to make sure that they get that help.
Thank you. The question goes to Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. And so like some of my colleagues have mentioned, there is a program with the county, took a little while to come about, and with state. And I know we have a great relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, and we work closely with them, and so we can connect with those businesses and help with when they need those helps, or if they need additional help in filling out applications. We have so many different great resources that we're able to bring together to help through this entire process and this pandemic that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? And we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Nick Kaufman first. What programs and/or services would you like to see implemented or changed for the youth of Cottage Grove?
That is a very good question. Being that the fact, to be perfectly transparent, is that seems, that is the core of my campaign is transparency and accountability. I am not too aware of some of the community outreach programs that we have for the youth. However, with that being said, I know that there are programs through community centers and programs through community outreaches that we could definitely be utilizing more, especially as we see more diverse community moving into Cottage Grove. Those services will be greater, will have a greater demand, and we need to definitely support those and expand them.
Thank you. Question now goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you very much. We have a second to none parks and trail system in the city of Cottage Grove. It's something that we take great pride in. We've invested close to $5 million in Hamlet Park, or have an investment planned for the west side of the highway, and we also have made a number of investments in a number of other city parks, including the inclusive playground at Woodridge Park. So we definitely want to ensure that when kids want to get outside and be active, they have the green space and the amenities or park equipment to do that. We also have a potential referendum coming around the bend on a community center, something that we have talked about in the city of Cottage Grove for many years. That was going to be on the ballot this year. The city council chose to delay that due to the pandemic. We want to kind of see how the economy works and make sure that before we put anything on the ballot that would be a nice to have, we have the funding necessary for the things that are actually core government services first. But that is something we're very focused on.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. We have an excellent rec program in the city of Cottage Grove. In fact, the registrations for so many of those programs fill up like within minutes. As soon as Molly puts them out, they're filled up. Fantastic programs happening throughout the city at different parks throughout the summer, and also doing events during the school year as well. They also put together programs for kids when they don't have school. We also work really closely with EFCA, and they have their education programs that happen, and we work closely with those, and they use the schools, but we also have opportunities to be a part of that as well. And as my colleague mentioned, the community center, we've been looking at that, and we've been planning on that, and we've been putting things together as to bring it to the community and see if that's something the community wants, to provide another resource for our youth, that they would have opportunities to participate in things and have the voters vote on that. So we have opportunities that are already here and more to potentially come in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to Myron Bailey.
Yes, thanks. So in 2020, right now, the city of Cottage Grove has 33 parks. Back in 2010, we had 27. So the city of Cottage Grove continues to grow our parks and our trail systems to make it interconnected. We have added in the last 10 years our splash pad, a dog park, a bike park, the inclusive playground. We improved our ice arena to be one of the state-of-the-art top facilities in the state. We've upgraded and fixed up our golf course, which is having a record year right now, obviously due to COVID. And everybody up here, I think, knows my baby, if you will, is the community center. I've been talking about it, looking at it, wanting it for many, many, many years. And though it was important to postpone it for this year because of the COVID situation and the uncertainty of the economy, our goal and hope is that we'll be able to put that on the ballot next year. And we did listen to the public. I want to say that very quickly because one of the things they did ask us about is they wanted a water feature. And that is something that we did come back late and did add that to the referendum for next year.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Lorraine?
Thank you. I also wanted to bring up that we do have the bike park that was mentioned, but that is run by volunteers, and that was put together by grants. So the city donated the land, but it is purely run by grants and by volunteers. So a fantastic place. I know there's many, I live pretty close there. I see so many bikes come by. We also have the skate park, and each year we get grants to help kind of update that and keep it up with all the different pieces that go with that, because I know it kind of gets used a lot. So there's lots of things for the youth to do in Cottage Grove.
Thank you. Anyone else? Justin Olson?
A few years ago, we embarked on a journey that we called Our Future Cottage Grove. And that really was a listening journey where we took a great deal of input from everyone in the community on a host of topics. And then we sort of ranked those topics with respect to what were the top priorities. And what you just mentioned was right there near the top. So it is something we've been working very hard on. The Community Center Task Force that we put together is the one that came up with the plan that we're hoping to put before the voters in 2021, should the economy rebound like we think it will. And we look forward to hearing from the voters on that issue.
Thank you. Anyone else? Myron?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking through my head of these different things that we have in our community for our youth that maybe they don't know about. We do have a disc golf course, which is in Oakwood Park. I almost forgot about that one. And we have an RC cars park, which is down near Hamlet. So there are these kind of unique things. And in most of these cases, by the way, as it was mentioned, they were done through volunteers. The volunteers came to the city, came to myself in a lot of cases, and said, hey, we'd like to do this. And we let them, give them the property or look at the process and let them run with it.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll move on to the next question, which will be the last question. And it goes first to Lorraine. What are your ideas to increase city revenues and/or decrease city expenses?
This is a great question. Thank you. So we've talked about growth, and so continuing on a path of slow growth is very important. And that's not just growth in housing, it's growth in business, it's growth in industry. And we have worked hard, the city has worked hard in putting forth efforts to expand our business park and getting things ready to make it attractive for businesses to come to Cottage Grove, because that's going to help spread out that tax. So when the businesses are starting to pay tax, that means the homeowners are going to have less in that property tax. So that tax rate will go down for the homeowners. And so that's an important way to be able to bring that tax rate down. So if we can grow slow enough, but fast enough so we can keep up with everything that's going on, we can bring that rate down. And that's happened since I've been on the council. That tax rate has come down because we've been working on growing. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Question now goes to Myron Bailey.
Yes, I would tell you that, we've done a really good job as a city to manage the expenses. I agree with Councilmember Mills's comments about our business park. When I came onto the council, both as a council member, then again as a mayor, every year we get a pie chart, if you will, that our finance director will show us what sliver of the pie is the tax base within our community, and the majority of it has been housing. And so that means all of us that are sitting up here, all of us, maybe some of you in the audience, are the ones that are paying the majority of the taxes. Over the years, what we've done is adjusted our approach to business. We have done shovel-ready projects in our business park. The fact that Renewal by Anderson just did a multi-million-dollar expansion, Up North Plastics did a multi-million-dollar expansion. We have additional businesses in our business park that are either expanding at this current rate, or there's some new businesses that we're going to be talking about that are coming to Cottage Grove. The more that we do that, it expands that tax base out so that the homeowner isn't the one bearing the brunt of all the taxes for the amenities that we want.
Thank you. Question now goes to Nick Calvin.
I totally agree that we definitely need to have smart and slow growth. My understanding is that in order to attract businesses to a community, you have to add roofs. And the more roofs, the more likely then a business is going to be coming to the community. With that being said, there is going to be additional capital investment that comes with those additions of new homes, and we have to be smart as a community and as a council on who we're doing business with. We have to make sure that our planning commission and our public works are taking a valued approach contracts with vendors when it comes to even expanding our water or adding utilities, et cetera. We need to make sure that those expenditures are being monitored as if it is our own checkbook, and we need to make sure that we're protecting the hardworking dollars of all of the citizens here in our community, and making sure that we're driving that value while also reducing those expenses.
Thank you. Question goes to Justin Olson.
Thank you. As I've mentioned earlier, the value to the homeowner in the city of Cottage Grove is fantastic with regard to taxes paid for services received. We have a very comprehensive budget process that we go through every year. It takes us about a month, and we go line by line through every department in the city to ensure that we are making smart decisions with the taxpayers' money. I'm a taxpayer. Lorraine's a taxpayer. Myron's a taxpayer. There's many taxpayers at the dais. We want to make sure that we provide value for the least cost. That being said, I started as a council member in 2008 when we were in the midst of a pretty deep recession. We did a lot of cutting at that time. We made sure that we cut all the fat without cutting any of the bone. That was a great starting point. So what we've done since that time is we've been very planful and careful that as we add more amenities in the service, more rooftops, more roadways, et cetera, we add what we need to support that without going overboard.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Myron?
All right. So I guess what I wanted just to point out when we talk about these contracts and such, excuse me, the fact is that our city has been identified as one of the most fiscally sound cities, frankly, in the nation, not even just the state of Minnesota. We do have to follow certain laws and regulations as it relates to observing and making sure that all of these contracts of the working people or the businesses that are doing business here in Cottage Grove. So there can't be things that are going to fall through the cracks. And I can assure you that the finance department, public works, police, everyone that's in our city right now absolutely watches the checkbook because they know it's our money.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Nick?
I would just like to add here that there are some implications of expansion as well that we haven't necessarily talked about. We're talking about making sure that that taxes do not grow in our community, but one thing that we have not talked about is the cost of living. Now, when we also talk about these bold ideas about expanding, have progressive agenda when it comes to business expansion, we also have to take that into consideration as well when it comes to our seniors and the affordability of this community as well, which will then fall on our expenditures. And also, when it comes to those contracts, just getting the cheapest bid up front doesn't necessarily mean value. We need to make sure that the contract is driving value over the term of the contract, not just up front.
Thank you. Justin?
Thank you very much. We do measure the tax impact of the levy every year against 4 properties in the city of Cottage Grove of various price points. And we do that to figure out what is the impact going to be. And I'm very proud to say that if you look at our 2021 budget, the impact is actually going to be those taxpayers will pay less in 2021 than they did in 2020. The budget conversations that we have are open meetings. Anybody can come. They are available, and we're able to discuss anything in that room with whoever comes. This year, we had nobody there. Nobody came. So if you want to learn more about taxes, I would encourage people to come to the meetings or reach out to any one of us on the council.
Thank you. Lorraine, any comments?
No, thanks.
And we're going to move on to closing statements, and we will begin with our candidate for mayor, Myron Bailey.
All right, so again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this event. Frankly, now more than ever, we need your group to continue to get the word out to the public because, as Lorraine was mentioning earlier, it isn't like we're necessarily able to do door-to-door. There's a lot of things that maybe you normally would do in an election cycle that we're not able to do this year. We are living in challenging times right now, but I want the public to be assured that at your local level, I as the mayor, the current council, and our staff are here to serve and to protect all of you in these challenging times. As a city, we are still growing. We're adding jobs, we're adding businesses and retailers, even during this COVID situation, which is frankly remarkable. We're gonna have the largest housing growth this year in the last 15 years, which is just unbelievable. We are known as a business-friendly, fiscally conservative, safe, and known for our parks and amenities. So if you do want more information, because I see my time is about to run out, is visit my website at myronbaileyformayor.com, and please vote either through early voting or in person on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear closing statements from our 3 candidates for council, and we'll begin with Justin Olson.
Thank you. As a 38-year-plus resident of the city of Cottage Grove who grew up here, who went to school here, I love this community. And I could serve on the city council for the remainder of my living years and never pay back all that this community has given to me. From the coaches that coached me in Little League to the teachers and mentors that I've had. I'm very, very proud to be from here, and I bleed Cottage Grove. It runs deep with me and my family. It's always been my goal to serve Cottage Grove residents fairly and honorably, to represent our city positively, to communicate my positions clearly and effectively, and to help enact sound policy initiatives in partnership with my council colleagues and city staff that serve the greater good of our community. Those are my core values. They were instilled in me as I grew up in Cottage Grove, and as I mentioned, went to school here and settled here with my family. I would love to continue that work if granted the opportunity. Thus, I'm asking for your trust again and your vote in this year's election. For more information, you can go to olsonforcottagegrove.com or you can reach out to me directly. All of my information is available on the City of Cottage Grove's website. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next with her closing statement is Lorraine Mills.
Thank you. I want to first thank the voters for being informed and for listening tonight. I'm dedicated to this community, and I've been in this community since in 2002 and have experience with many different groups that I've been a part of and have demonstrated leadership over the years. I'm committed to promote growth, slow, steady growth with our businesses, our industry, with diverse housing options so that we can continue to lower that tax rate. I want to ensure that that long-term water solution gets finished so that we have safe and water for a long time. I will be promoting a racial diverse hiring and work towards a community that is not only safe, but feels safe no matter the color of your skin. And if there are questions that I didn't answer tonight or we didn't get to, please visit my website. It's LorraineMills.com. You can learn more about me. I'm Lorraine Mills, and I respectfully ask for your vote for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Now with his closing statement is Nick Kauthan.
Our community has seen unprecedented growth in the last few years, especially the years that I have been a part of this community. However, we need to ask ourselves, is this growth happening too fast? And sadly, it looks like that growth is happening at an unprecedented rate that's causing folks to be priced out of their homes. Seeing older folks in our community unfortunately having to pick up and move out of the community due to the increases of the cost of living that's occurring as a direct implication of the said growth. I'm running for City Council because I believe I can bring a fresh perspective, independent voice, and represent an area of Cottage Grove that has been forgotten while still being a voice for the entire community. I'm humbled to be here today. I appreciate all of the candidates and the forum, and I ask that I am provided the opportunity to earn your vote. Please remember to get out to vote local, as the local vote matters just as much as the state and federal level, and we appreciate the forum.
Thank you. The League thanks the candidates for their participation, the SWCTC for broadcasting this event, the City of Cottage Grove for use of their facilities, our League volunteers, and you, the audience, for your attendance and interest. Let your voice be heard. Vote. Thank you.